Then after the land acknowledgement statement, we'd like to have a moment of silence for Rebecca Strang, who passed away this weekend, and she was a food service worker over at Prospect. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Salamanca City Central School District acknowledges the homeland of the Anandawakta, the people of the Great Hill, the Seneca people on whose ancestral and modern day land Salamanca School District now stands and whose water we enjoy. We stand with all Indigenous peoples in their resolve to remain connected to their land. While we cannot undo what has been done, it is the goal of the Salamanca City Central School District to recognize the history and make improvements that will benefit the next 7 generations of Indigenous students.
Thank you, everyone. We have any changes to the agenda.
There are just a couple changes. We have added the budget PowerPoint for the presentation. And then for the information sharing, we've added a couple upcoming events that I'll go through right now. March 3 and 4 are the All County Musical Fest, which is held here at Salamanca High School. March 9th is our all chorus concert for grades 4 through 12. The 21st is the all band concert for grades 4 through 12. The 21st is also the spring parent athletic meeting. And March 25th is the Odyssey of the Mind regional competition in Wellsville. We also added the reason for executive section.
Okay. We need a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion.
Second. Motion by Dale, second by Brad. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion carried. Just like the note, Mr. John will be here, but he will be a little bit late. We'll move on to item 3. We had our food service presentation. We have snacks. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Sorry, Don, I should have warned you.
First of all, it's wait, I think Amy Janetti, who put together the PowerPoint. I'm not tech savvy, so it'll take me forever. So thank you. And I'd really like to thank you, the board, for and the district involved setting up their transition for self-op. It's good. The support that we've had, great. We couldn't have set up any better. So thank you. I make this short and sweet. Just want to show the numbers for these are the numbers before self-op and before the COVID. So you can see they're pretty high. The attendance was low, and I'll come back to this because just the numbers of the average lunches were 16,000, 16,500, and then around 16,000 following year.
We're gonna try this.
Skip upstairs. So as you see the last year, the numbers were down significantly. I think there's a few things that after that we're new. I think change was tough. A lot of healthier options. Getting used to buying the kale chips and then so it was a challenge at times where but as you can see this year we're not quite where we want to be. We're not quite where we were, but we're close. We're getting there. I think that's a good trend. We keep going up. We'll keep the numbers from the last 2 years of non-self. food service manager, staff involvement with students. This is something we're really trying to focus on. Food service, I attend the monthly student government meetings. And these have been, I think, huge. We're learning, keeping me accountable and food service department accountable. So we can get a lot of feedback from the students, and they've had great ideas. We're working on a lot of things. I can go back to this one. Couple slides from now, but they had a lot of great ideas. They hold surveys, things like that, student surveys, and the student government has been great. I see a couple of members. So thank you. Yeah, they're awesome. I periodically meet third through seventh grade meetings. I include seventh grade. That wasn't that. That's we're trying to get more meetings with them. That wasn't I met with them once, to be honest, this year. Trying to get more meetings with them. At Prospect, we've been really working on talking to students and engaging with them, go around trying samples. Now that we're back full staff, we can do a little bit more the full schools. So just a lot of student engagement, getting involved, or finding out what they like, what they don't like. And it's great because they're really honest. We had chicken curry last week. Mixed reviews, I mean, it went over pretty well, but some of the kids were one student limited it. It was good at first, and then afterwards it tasted like dead skunks. So a lot of people tasted that skunk. Yeah, it was a compliment.
It could be.
It is. That's what I mixed.
Yeah.
Current menu projects, salads as a meal at Prospect. We just started this a couple weeks ago, and we had right now we're doing 20 to 30 salads a day, which is for little kids. That's great. It's kind of surprised at that, and they're sticking with it. We're doing more and more salads as a meal at Prospect. Sub bar at Lakeville. That's probably going to start April 17th after we get back from break. And that's something that the school government's been pushing for. So we're working on that. And then horticulturally diverse entrees. We went through something. We went through on the list like we're chicken curry. We're trying out different things. Next month we got chicken supply. A lot of different diverse anyway. Researching healthy snack and ice cream alternatives. This is tough because I know ice cream's like a big one. A lot of people want, but also keeping with our wellness policy, upcoming wellness policy. It's something we want to kind of look for healthier options. We're working on that. A lot of surveys and things like that. We're trying to.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, great. Hold on.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
I'll fix it.
That's what I said.
I know, we forgot. There. Was there one before that, Marcia?
Yes.
Yeah.
The future district projects, farm the schools, working with that real farms. That's something that the board district was interested in the get-go, and that's great. And we're working on it. There's been change in management at Wheel, and currently we're working with Gary Fisher, and she's amazing. And I don't know Gary enough, but she's a great to work for. Now that we're fully staffed too, we can work with social with her and kind of hopefully focus more on that than we can do in the past. We're currently researching possible reimbursable cold meal vending machines compatible with our current POS system. Well, that would, especially in the beginning of the year, we had a lot of lines of the students waiting for a while. So these would give students the option to go to the vending machines, take out a fully reimbursable meal, and it goes to our system. So it's still looking into that. Healthy local foods tasting, taste testing and provision. This is something that was handing in with the next slide with the farm school grant with well, I was thinking with session. That's something that they're going to be helping us. We're going to be working together with them. And also Alcohol Greens. Alcohol Greens really quick, I know. Right past my 15 minutes. Alcohol Greens is a company that they're working right now. They're out of Buffalo, starting out obviously, but they're trying to come back to this area and they're grow out of the containers. It's exciting because no matter what the weather, they can grow fresh produce, and it's going to be close by. So instead of they let us transport it from California, which is or the crops with the weather being the way it is, climate change, produce hasn't been the best, and but this we've tried out and it's great and it's exciting that they're going to have fresh produce all year long. It'll be close. We'll get it within 4 days of harvest, so I'm really excited about that.
This one's mine. There we go. Okay, so John doesn't like to take credit for this, with the department, but it's been amazing, the stuff that he's been able to do and bring in, as far as turning things over for his alcohol thing. But so John and I have been working on, where are we going with food services? So I came up with this idea, that we're going to call it, and now I'm totally gone. Oh, Farm to School and Beyond. So there are a couple different grants. There's actually 5 different grants I've applied for, 6 of them. Northeast Farm to School Institute. So basically I've applied for John to go to Vermont Institute in June to go and spend the entire week there, learning about farm to school and how they do it and best methods and best practices and things like that. Applied for USDA Farm to School, which is to create a garden once the houses that were at Hoy Street are taken down. That garden would be not only for student educational purposes, but there'd also be an exterior classroom over there. So teachers could take the classes over there. They could talk about gardening. They could help with the gardening, etc. Anything that we harvest from there could be used in the cafeterias. If something is harvested in the summer, if we can save it to use in the cafeterias or maybe modify it by cooking it, etc. We can do that, or potentially we can create a little, kind of a roadside stand with fresh vegetables and fruits, etc. for community to purchase as part of a kind of a regrowth and fundraising for that. Another thing is New York Food for New York Families, and this one I hope we get all of them, but this one I really like, is that we would purchase food, could be fruits, vegetables, meats, anything. We would bring people in, John would teach them how to cook it, or maybe different ways of cooking it. Some people cook the same thing the same way every single time, when there are different methods, and it may be better for you or better tasting if it's cooked in a different manner. So you'd come in and you'd have a session with John and learn how to do this. And then at the end of the night, after the session, you would go home with that box of ingredients that you could cook at home. So I really hope we get that. I skipped one, local foods for local schools. That's bringing in local foods, just like John was talking about with delicate grains. And the part that he didn't talk about with that, I think is really cool, is that once they get up and running, they do partner or will partner with some schools where they will drop a container. John's talking about containers. They're actually shipping containers that we're growing out of. And when they had that major storm in Buffalo, they were 3-4 days out with not going in there and seeing what stuff looked like. They said they went in, opened the doors, beautiful in there. Not one thing was ruined whatsoever. Everything continued to grow. Everything was at the temperatures it was supposed to be at, etc. So when they build this new facility, not only will it be growing things that we can purchase from them, but it will also be used as an educational location for all school districts, that if you want to participate, you can go and look and see how they're growing things. We won't be able to go directly into the containers because of all the USDA and regulations, etc. But they're going to have the end of them open up, and then there'll be a plexiglass wall so you can see through and see what's growing in there and stuff. They'll also have an educational center, etc. But the cool thing is they will partner with us and collaborate with us and drop a container. And my suggestion is going to be at 608 Broad. That's where all the school buses are right now. Sorry, Bob. We're taking your school bus parking spot right now. But they'll drop the container there and assist us with setting it up so we can grow our own stuff in the container. So, you know, it's whatever, 25 degrees outside right now, we've been growing stuff in the container. So that would be very cool. Two other things I'm working on, National School Lunch Program equipment assistance for a new dishwasher at Prospect, a slicer, and a pizza oven at the high school. And what's the other one, John? You just gave it to her, the new oven. Yeah, so I'm gonna apply for all those. And then, the No Kid Hungry one is cards for second chance breakfast. So somebody comes in late, they come in like at 9:30. You know, they had an appointment in the morning or whatever, they just don't get out of bed. And they come in late, that they can still get a breakfast even though they're already on lunch, in the cafeteria. So we'll have carts available in all three buildings, if we get there. So those are the things that we're looking for in my farm to school and beyond program that we're working with food services.
So with that container, we could then start growing enough produce for ourselves, or we'd still need to buy.
We probably still need to buy, but I honestly don't know enough about it for quantity purposes. Next month, no, April. Ellicottville Greens is going to present to the school business officials, because I was talking to them about it and they were all interested, and the food service managers are going to be invited as well, because Ellicottville Greens has met with a few of us, but not everybody.
Right.
So this would be a chance to have them meet with all of the school business officials as well as all the food service managers to give them the idea, you know, like John said, so we don't have to buy lettuce from California that was picked 3 weeks ago that really wasn't right. Or it was right then and then it's rotten when it gets here.
So are they just selling to schools, or are they doing like
They do restaurants and hospitals and schools and,
not individual? Like
Nope.
individuals can't, it's just gotta be organizations, right?
yeah, that's as far as I know. Whether they'll open it up beyond that, I'm not sure.
Right now, they're gonna start focusing mostly on greens and lettuces, things like that. But then as they get going, hopefully the goal is that there's a need. If enough schools and hospitals say, all right, we want cucumbers, we want
Right.
carrots, then we'll start doing this.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so they talk to universities around here and the hospitals and schools, and it'll be really cool. They're gonna build a $1 million facility locally here somewhere. I guess they're looking in the Illinois area.
Sound like it's greener.
Any other questions on food services for John?
How does that partnership with Gut Field, what are they providing?
Oh, so yeah, great question. So what we'll do with them is potentially they can grow enough for us, we'll buy all our potatoes from them, or we'll buy all our whatever we can get from them, anything and everything that they're growing, if they can do the quantities that we need, that kind of thing. Also for an educational thing, we can take our kids up there and say, this is how you're doing. Like I can actually tell you, Mark and Tiffany were at the farm today, and they were so excited about how fantastic the maple syrup is.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, just having the kids see how that works. You know, I'm sure, well, I know one of our science classes does that a little bit, something with it, because I've seen the pictures where the kids tapping the trees and stuff, but to see it go from there to, you know, the container to take home with you is way cool. And, you know, even, I don't know if we're gonna bust down the Buffalo Farm or not, but, walking field trip maybe. But yeah, we would partner with them to purchase items as well as do educational stuff for the kids to go over there. Yeah. And then they've also, Jerry is already talked to us at one point about teaching us how to bring in the corn soup and fried bread and things like that, you know, on occasion to bring it in. And
Yes.
we have several people that have volunteered to assist us. So yeah, so we want to bring in more indigenous food, and like John was talking about, they did the curry thing today, and they're going to do souvlaki next week, and or not next week, but next month. And just to do, you know, let's get some different cultural backgrounds, not just our own here, you know, our own American or Seneca foods, but anything, you know, even your Mexican stuff. Yeah.
I know
That's great.
Doc we up to is doing like canning classes. It'd be great to be able to partner with them to, like, when you do get that addition over there and we're gonna have classes. Be nice for the community, like people that wanna know how to can or how to do it's like I know my mom knows how to do it. It's like, oh my gosh. You know, I should really learn that, but I don't. And I think there's a lot of people that don't realize it's kind of almost a lost skill stuff that you're doing, so.
Yeah.
Anyway, just showing that
Yeah,
out there.
definitely a community ed,
Yeah.
adult ed thing would be great.
Exciting.
One more thing, we did skip a slide. Well, we are also partnering with the nation, hopefully in the future to, on a composting project. And we'd like to start composting, and then they would, because it'd be a lot of compost, but it really be tough to get rid of, but they would take it. So they would help us. That's great. There's a lot of logistics in that,
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Next, we have our transportation presentation.
Bob doesn't have snacks either.
Um,
I tried busting in.
Yeah,
See, you gotta get it.
yeah.
Hi, I'm Bob, Bus Garage, if you don't know me. The reason I'm here is to bring up the future needs of the transportation department. Thank you. Oh, okay, as you can see, this is our transportation family, this is the drivers, monitors, mechanics, so forth. What I'm here to show. Oh, we don't push it again. Okay, as you guys can see on here, that's the mileage of our buses as of January. You can see the yellow, we were way ahead of last year's. We set records last year for the school district. Oh, okay, again, this is our van mileage. You can see in September and October, we more than doubled our mileage from last year. Here's over the last 2 years, at this point in January of last year, our bus mileage was 155,000. We're already at 173,703. Again, below you can see that total of 28, total of 55. We did additional. Last year was 28, sorry, 807. This year we're 55,374. Difference of 26,000 miles in our van as of January already.
sure.
One more. As you can see, back in 21, when we actually traveled by this time 99,308 miles with 29 employees. Last year at this time, we did 184,552 miles with 37 full-time drivers. This year at this point in time, okay, thank you. At this point, we've already did 229,077 miles with only 32 employees. Yes, we went down on employees because we've had some retire, some move on to other careers and situations. Thank you. But you see, we're traveling a lot more miles for the staff that we have, and we've been growing. We have 4 people in training. I don't know, some of you might not know, we do our own training down there. And we have 4 in training to help build the family. What I'm showing you here is because of the family we have, Mr. Ball, he's one of our mechanics. You might not know, 12 years of his life he dealt with tires. So he's been doing his own little thing over the last 2 years with discussion from Sue and Dolly, some others helping us do the information here. If you look on the left, the bus 150, I should have marked it better. At the bottom, let me show you. Hold on, I apologize. Up from the bottom at 3122 on bus 150, you'll see at 22,000 miles, 22,659 miles. Might not make sense to you, but a tire is based on 30 seconds. We purchase a brand new tire, 25, 30 seconds. After running this tire for 2 years, we're still at 18, 30 seconds on that tire. Past practice has always been to run caps. That's recap where they take the tire, they put new tire on. Well, at that rate, we had them on bus 144 at 22,350. We're all the way down to 8. So by Mr. Ball doing his research, following the patterns of the bus, if we stay on our rotation of buses every 7 years, where we were spending Thank you. Bus 50 at 22,000 miles at 30 seconds. If we were to stay on our present course and keep going like I was the old research of using caps, in that 7 years, we would spend. Because a cap, a core and a cap is $308. Brand new tires, $424.50. So if we take that tire that comes on that bus brand new, we run it and stay on our 7-year program, it's gonna cost us $632.50 per tires for the life of that bus. But if we would have stayed with the caps and the cores, that'd be $1,232 we would spend spending on that bus in the life of 7 years. The cost in tires, so it's almost cutting our cost in half. Well, we've already started going with this program. So basically, that's what I got for you. I want to thank the board and the administration for allowing us to grow like we are, because we can use the strength of all of our employees in one way or another.
So what accounts for the increase in like the van miles? Is it just from,
The school, I apologize, I must have missed one section, it's going too fast, but the school has been growing, as you know, in students, a lot more activities, the schools have been, put on with Power Hour, for prospects, different programs that we're busing, sports picked up this year a lot. So, more programs that we're busing.
but you're able to accommodate everything?
Yes, we are. So far, we've been holding strong.
You need more coach buses?
We can
Is
use
that what
more
I heard?
buses, yes.
That's what I just, that's what I just walked in, and that's what I heard. That's what I heard.
Coach vans and buses?
Yeah.
What was it, Can be good.
So what could we do to make your job easier?
Basically, allow us to keep doing what we've been doing, like you guys have been supportive and stuff like that. We are growing. We are working on, along with everybody in the bus garage. All big family now. They all work, like I said, we are training 4 of our monitors to become drivers. That is also done in-house by our drivers to assist mechanics go over, we'll help them get their permits and everything right through the program. And mainly, if we go back, almost 70% of the drivers we had were originally monitored.
Awesome. Great job.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Bob is another one that
Loves to
doesn't take
talk.
credit for all the stuff that he does. Keeps this place running, all the buses and drivers, and there are times when he's driving the bus to pick up kids. But he does what it takes to get them there, to get the kids here and home and everywhere else, and that kind of things. And he does a great job, so he was honored, it's fantastic.
Great job, guys. All right, next we have athletics.
Can we speak to data?
No. Yes, we can skip the data.
No.
Dad, you're up, baby. Sorry, I'm skipping the data.
Okay,
Throw them.
we're flexible.
This one. All right.
What's that?
Where's all of you?
Oh, well, you know what side are you going?
Oh, we got put up.
My brain has a processing fast. I was pretty good. Stretch them all.
Escalated.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't quite good enough. Gotta keep picking it up. You're gonna be our cleaner, Marcella. Thank you so much.
So just to recap where we were with data, in the fall, we produced our data for our performance data, and we promised that we would show you the growth data in January. And we're really proud of this data because almost every grade level is making growth and we're starting to close the gaps. To just review, this data includes NWA assessments for grades 2 through 10, and it includes Ames Web assessments for grades K and 1. Our students in grades K and 1 also took NWEA, but we didn't include that data because we don't have growth measures to compare it to. So this presentation will look exactly like it did in the fall, but just show you growth from growth measures. I'm going to turn it over to Nikki Beaver. Before I do that, I want to thank the principals because they've worked countless hours on this. They've worked as a true team to come up with a presentation that really reflects a K through 12 academics at Salamanca City School District. And they've also been working hard at collaborating not only on where we are and where we've grown, but what our next steps are. And some of the conversations that actually took place in my office today were, okay, now what do we do from now until June? So it's exciting to see the growth we were making and actually where we're headed.
Okay, so NWEA, it's the test that we're giving our kids 3 times a year, giving it in the fall, winter, and the spring. It's an adaptive achievement and growth test. It's measuring progress and growth for each individual student. And after they take the assessment, they get the RIT score. And so the RIT score stands for route unit of measure. It does not change. It remains consistent on a scale of 100 to 350, and it goes up in equal intervals. It's thought of as a ruler where you can go feet and inches. The RIT score is an estimation of a student's instructional level, and it measures progress or growth in school from year to year. The RIT score does not take into consideration the age or the grade of the student. It's just a measure of their performance, and it's usually only used by NWEA. You can say that the RIT score measures how tall the student is on the curriculum scale, and it measures how much growth a student has made. Okay, so this data is the reading from fall to winter at Prospect. The RIT score, the red represents what our average RIT score was in 2nd grade in the fall compared to what our average RIT score is in the winter. You can see 2nd grade and 3rd grade. 2nd grade went up 11 points, and 3rd grade went up 9 points. The other chart refers to the gap closure. And so the gap closure is how the grade level average compares to the national norm. So we want that number to decrease. We want to get closer to closing the gap, which in 2nd and 3rd grade we did. This is the RIT score for math at Prospect. You can same thing. It's a RIT score from fall and winter, and then we want to decrease close the gap. This is reading grades 4 through 7 at Seneca. This is their RIT scores. The red represents fall, the gray represents winter. So in 4th grade, there was a 10-point growth. 5th grade, 7-point growth. 6th grade, 6 points, and 7th grade, 8 points. This is the gap closure, and we were really, really excited about this slide because this data shows that we are closing in and making really great gains and reading at Seneca. There's a significant gap closure there. Math at Seneca, grades 4 through 7. 5 points in 4th grade, 6 points in 5th grade, 5 points in 6th grade, and a huge shout out to our 7th graders. They made a 15-point gain in the RIT score. I'm really proud of them. And the gap closure at Seneca. And so this data might not look like we're closing gaps as fast as we were in reading, but when we did a little bit of research today, when we were diving into some data and we looked back to where these kiddos were last winter, these students have made almost a 1.5 years worth of growth at this point. And so we're really excited about that. And what's really important to celebrate at this point, when we look at our students NWA growth in grades 2 through 7 is that we have made growth on the NWA assessment. It's important to acknowledge that our students will grow at their own pace. And so if we're thinking of it as a ruler, and you're thinking of a third grader being 4 foot tall when they start third grade, we would never expect them to be 6 foot tall at the end of the year, right? We just want them to kind of gradually grow. And that's exactly what we're seeing at this point. Our students are growing at a great pace. The data reflects measurement on a curriculum scale. We know that our students still have a lot to learn, but we're using this data to better improve their instruction, and I'm confident that we're going to continue to see our students grow for the spring. Boyd?
And we're excited about that as well. Following suit, Chris has asked me to present, so I'm excited about that. Thanks for having us. You can see growth in 8th, 9th, and 10th grades in their reading writ scores. And if we go back to that ruler analogy, there is an end to that ruler, so there's a cutoff at the top, and you can see that we're merging towards the top here. As we move to our gap closure, we can see in the 8th grade, the gap grew a small amount in the wrong direction. But it should be important to say that, like, we're running towards this data. We're not running from it to help us drive our instruction and the interventions we've put in place. So that is something that we have talked about in our meetings. Again, it's going to help us drive our instruction. The gap in 9th and 10th is trending in the right direction. As we move to our math fall to winter, our RIT scores in 8th grade appear to be a bit stagnant, while growth in 9th and 10th grade is progressing. And then as we look at that closure again, we see the 8th grade is an area that we'll drill down to see where we need to intervene. However, the gap is not that far from the national norm and the national mean. And in 9th and 10th, the gap is closing. If you look at Algebra 1, 9th, the gap is extremely close to the national NWEA mean.
So. All right, so on to Ames Web. So just to remind you, we have another assessment tool for our K1 for our little kiddos over at Prospect. So we use Ames Web as the additional assessment tool for them. So it is a benchmarking tool. We also use it for progress monitoring. So our benchmarking, we benchmark 3 times a year. So in the fall, the winter, and the spring. And huge shout out to our coaches. It's very time intensive. It's one-on-one, almost like an interview style performance task. So it does take a lot of time for those benchmarks, but gives us really good information about our kiddos and very timely. So that is done in collaboration with the coaches for our benchmarking, but it's also used as a progress monitoring tool. So we can use it periodically throughout the year to really check in and hone in on our kiddos' skills and see how they're progressing. So our teachers, coaches, interventionists, they do have access to that information as a progress monitoring tool throughout the year as well. And then just a note at the bottom that the targets do change on an annual basis based on results from the previous year. All right, so just to give you a little bit of our data snapshot as to how our kiddos are progressing. So on this slide, you'll see kindergarten. This is just, again, it's a snapshot of how kindergarten is progressing with their early literacy skills. There's a lot of very discrete skills within this, but where our goal really is for them to, continue to see this upward trajectory and to eventually, hopefully, close that gap and get closer to that national achievement line there. And then here you'll see kindergarten, Ames Web benchmark data for math. So this is from fall to spring. So again, you're going to see some of that growth, and you'll see it's a little bit more parallel and closer to that national line as well. And then here are our first grade kiddos. Ames Web again for these are their early literacy skills. So we see, we still see that positive upward trajectory and growth there. So again, this is a data point where we're using this information to drill down and make sure that we're best supporting our kids. And then here is math for first grade.
So to just wrap it up, something really different that we did this round of NWEA testing, and for some of the Ames Web, we had the teachers that made goals. They did their own goal setting and then celebrate their success as they achieve their goal or met, work towards meeting their goal. And they had popsicle parties and popcorn and just different little celebrations, and the kids took it a lot more seriously and were really excited. And so we think that that's something we're definitely going to continue as the students throughout the year.
And just to add one thing as well, one thing that we've been talking about is we do have some classrooms that are really empowered now and having these conversations with kids. Putting data in front of kids, having conversations about goal setting and what it's going to take to achieve those goals. So one thing we started talking about was eventually hopefully bringing kids and to the board meeting to kind of talk about those skills and their goals and how they achieve their goals as well.
So each of those students has their own set of scores that they see, so they can tell how much they've grown.
So NWA gives them a projected growth that they should grow, or that
So
they
then
would be
they can
expected to grow. So
Self-monitor.
they use that, yeah.
Oh,
They're filling in charts, and turned it into a math lesson, and fourth grade had a big display in the hallway, and we celebrated.
wow, that's awesome. It's good to see that the numbers are going
Yeah.
up for the most part. Instead of down. So, good to know what we need to focus on and that it's working.
Part of the thing again that the map shows us is we can see what students have low achievement and low growth. So those are the ones we can really focus on providing interventions for. We do have some students that, score high, but they don't grow a lot, but they're already at the high level. And then, so we have an idea of where to focus and who to focus on, and then provide those interventions specifically for them. So, and it's interesting to note that as on the 8th grade, half of them had great growth on math for the 8th grade. So although the results didn't show it, I think it was a narrow number of students that kind of affected that. So I actually met with Terry Peters today, who was a math coach at the high school, and we kind of dug down into that. So we're going to put some specific interventions in place to help those kids.
Good. Good to know that we're like using the data to make good informed decisions and it drives what we're doing instead of just, let's try this, that we're really focusing on it. Good.
One thing we're adding on April 24th is our next data meeting. And yes, we use a lot of our NWA data, but the difference is we only provide that 3 times a year, beginning, middle, and end. So, all the in-between stuff, we're trying to use NWA to drive some of our other things. So in April, our program literacy footprints that we use for guided reading and ERLA that we use at Seneca, we will now start comparing students' reading levels compared to NWA and start projecting if they're on, give you an example, a 3rd grade reading level, and their NWA says that they're projected to be in a 3rd grade reading level, but they're really in 5th grade. Well, now we'll be using 2 points of data to go, okay, well, how do we get them up to 5th grade? We have two measures now to use. We're going to start adding in the 3 measures, the guided reading, the NWA, and the AIMS-Web all together to try and drill down to the data deeper.
So that kind of goes back to what we were talking about before with trying to come up with individualized education plans for like every student. So you kind of know what everybody needs to help them for needs, right?
I would say this last round of data meetings, I mean, you're at all of the data meetings too. Do you feel that teachers really now are really drilling down deeper?
Yeah,
I mean,
we're
we-
finding that the teachers are understanding that there's a lot of reports that NWA can create for you, and the teachers are understanding those and utilizing them more effectively than we have in the past, which is great.
I would agree. I've seen the progression just being. We used to just use it as a surface level. This is where we're at, as a classroom in general. And now they really are drilling down to each student to see specific skills that they're weak in, and then comparing it to their reading levels to set up an individualized plan for intervention. Yeah.
I know at the high school, I want to thank Becky Manning because she's kind of taken the leadership on organizing all that NWVA data, and she's kind of our go-to, and I know she helped immensely, develop and put together, especially the high school stuff. So she did a phenomenal job. She came as on break and home, so
She does it with grace.
We definitely need to celebrate all of the teachers.
Yep.
Awesome. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I got a few. So what's, looking at these last 4 graphs, the AIMS-Web reading, math for kindergarten and 1st grade, What are the numbers on the left?
The numbers on the left are the composite score. So LNF, oh, you're on math. Would you go back to the kindergarten slide that says kindergarten reading? Yeah. So the numbers on the left is a composite score and they take letter naming fluency. That's what the LNF is, and letter word sound fluency. And they take those two scores and average them. Does that make sense? So you come up with a composite score. The composite score is compared to the national norms, and we use the 45 percentile. So 45% of our kids score within that range of the national norm. We are at 20, let's see, 20, and then the national norm are 40. So you see the gap is wider as we get in the winter. See how it's wider? It should be narrower. So even though we're growing, our gap needs to be narrower, not wider.
Right. So that answered one of it, but the other one I was gonna ask is, what are we doing about getting our kindergartners closer to that national average? Because when I look at these, I see there's a bigger gap starting out in reading. But if you look at the 2 in math for kindergarten, and first grade, the gap's a little smaller. So what are we doing to help our kids in kindergarten to get off on the right foot? And is the problem from pre-K? Or what's the issue? Why are we so low?
So I would say, you know, a lot of our students didn't go to a pre-K. I mean, they're not in our pre-K, so some of them, it's hard to control what comes to us in kindergarten. The letter naming fluency, if you're behind in naming your letters, the letter sound fluency comes next. So I think it's a combination of both. Or some of our pre-Ks are coming into us and by the end of the year, still not knowing how to identify their letters. So the progression of letter sounds is now, we have a bigger gap. We are implementing a phonics and a phonemic awareness program called Integrity to try and hone in on those. Other than that, Kim, you don't know if you want to speak on that. We also have Jessica Putnam working with pre-K on specifically letter naming and letter sounds.
And also just one other thing, so as, I can't remember who was saying this, whether it was Tiffany or Lloyd or Chris, but just drilling down into using different data reports and drilling down into specific skills as well. We've done quite a bit of work, I believe, around that. That's one thing that I've been involved in that work this year. And then to identify that in a centralized place, which will empower school for us so that everyone has access to that. So once we've identified this focus area, where are we housing it so that it's transparent and everyone can see it, and we can all be working on that highest leverage skill for that kiddo so that we can hopefully start to make gains so that we don't have different providers working on different skills potentially. What's that highest leverage skill? Let's make it central so everybody can see it and we can all unite our efforts to hopefully make sure that we're all progressing on that continuum of literacy skills. Does that make sense? Okay, made sense in my head, but I didn't sure if it made sense coming up. But that's one thing that we've started doing is making sure that we have that central place that everybody can see that information. We've also been working with, we have Rebecca Austin coming over. She is collaborating with us through the Newsman. So we've been starting to have a lot of collaborative conversations with her as well as the tutors. So making sure that they're at team meetings. That's been a little tricky with scheduling, but we're trying to make that work so that everybody's at the table when we're talking about kids and everybody can see that so that we're not having these isolated conversations. So trying to work through some of the scheduling aspects of that because we do have a lot of supports. We're thankful for that. And it's really important that we're all at the table having those conversations together.
And just one thing you said, what are we doing? And I think we've identified that we need an early screener, like before they come in kindergarten, so we can identify exactly what it is before they come in, identify in kindergarten. That's something we're doing. Kindergarten teachers have asked for and been very adamant about quotable books. They want the quotable books in their classrooms. More of those as resources, and I think we've been really clear that there just needs to be more time spent to listening to their teachers read, some more read aloud, or they hear it, exposure to language, and then they need books in hand either. So there's pushing a little bit more, like get the books in their hands and let them see better.
We're trying to kind of expand the screening process as well. So we have a screening committee at Prospect that has, so we have to have a screener, but we're trying to back that up a little bit so that we're doing a screening in the spring so that we can really identify and kind of target some skills and potentially do some skills camps over the summer. But then also do another round of that screening in the middle of the summer. And they also, it's called the dial. They have an abbreviated version of that where we can do that as we get closer to the fall as well. So that we can kind of support before kids come to us, and start developing that partnership with families and build some potentially skills camps based off of the data that we're seeing from that screening process. So I think we're going to have multiple phases to that as well, hopefully. Which to my knowledge, I haven't been here that long. We haven't had that layered approach to the screening in the past. So that's something the community is really excited about.
Also, Mr. John, you recognize something that's relatively significant, right? These students have been with us 3 weeks in the fall when they take this assessment. Is that safe to say? Right? And they're already 20% or less than percent, 20 points or almost 50, half the skill level of other students nationally. I think that we don't typically talk about this a lot, but it's something that's important to recognize, is that some of these data points will parallel the socioeconomic status of the students that we serve. Many times, those students don't have some of the exposure that perhaps more affluent families may have with regard to the word sound connections that are made. And we have identified several things that we're doing to compensate for that once we have the students here. But we've also had conversations that, we need to probably have more of our students in pre-K and then begin to offer early childhood services to some of our students. We know that that's coming and forthcoming. But the sooner that we can work with students, the closer that we can get the national average and our school average in the fall. Because right now our students are starting already behind the national average with the moment that they walk into school.
Right, and it's only getting worse as the year goes on, and then you look at oral reading fluency for the first graders, and that's even worse yet.
Right.
It starts out with a bigger gap and gets even wider as the year goes on.
Right.
So this is exposing a huge problem we have at kindergarten and first grade.
So there's a lot of things that we can do once we have them. What we need to begin to do is actually start working with our community and our families to say, what can we do before kids are even in school? So that we don't have that gap, because that's a challenge for our students as well as for our teachers to begin to close gaps before they even have contact with them.
Yeah, early childhood center.
We do.
That's what we-
All part of making our kids smarter.
Yeah.
That's right.
We know
Goal
that.
number one.
We know
Yeah.
that. Gotta get them sooner rather than later.
Right.
Get the kids first, they need to learn.
And the other part of that is there's things that we can do before we have an early childhood center that we're working with Epic on, which is the family engagement, and we're about to roll out the family engagement plans. We typically look at that for families who are in our schools right now, but we can actually begin to take a look at students, not students, but our youth, our youngsters who aren't even in school age yet, and begin to work with parents and say, here, look, these are some of the things that you can do with your 2, 3, 4-year-old to begin to help them to start thinking. We don't want to turn this into 3-year-olds in school, but we want to be able to have them exposed to, letters, sounds, and some of the expectations that we can start to move forward toward in kindergarten and pre-K.
So how can we as a board help support this even more?
Thoughts or am I up?
Anybody?
Well, I'll just keep talking. I think our conversations about an early childhood center are absolutely critical to get that going sooner rather than later. Working with our Epic, which is our family engagement partner, to begin to take a look at what are some of the services that we can encourage our newest students and youngsters and the families to get engaged with, and start working with those parents right off the bat. Things like reading to children. We don't say this a lot, but many times in more affluent neighborhoods, students are read to much more frequently than they are in environments that are parallel a lower socioeconomic scale. That's research will tell us that over and over again. So the more we can do to encourage our families and our parents of very young children to read to their students and their kids, the better those students will be. And, it's challenging enough in kindergarten, especially now after the pandemic with some of the behavior issues that we have. But when you come in and you not only have to, be in a structured environment, which we have not been used to for several years, and then be at a significant gap. That's not just a challenge for our children, but also for our teachers, because they're frustrated as well. Mrs. Beatty? Oh, sure.
You said anybody. When in giving the English learner testing, it was very interesting. There's some like a teacher, like one to get a student, and the little girl had missed 38 days of school. So attendance is an issue with a lot.
Which is goal number 4.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, so I mean, we've identified them, the key now is to put these pieces in place.
Yeah.
Right, get their kids.
Hearing a lot of identification. Right?
Knowing what the problem is half the battle. Right. Yeah.
So I heard staff and I heard early childhood center.
Mhm.
Is that all we can do as a board?
You can probably do community reading note too. Encourage everybody to come in.
Right. Over the summer, we know that that was pretty successful, Bench Park. We need to just continue to do that more and more and look at probably a more structured preschool program.
I see Karen's taking notes.
Yeah, the whole reading thing at night, I just thought to myself, why can't we do it on Zoom? Get, a volunteer reader at night to read something with the kids or something.
Facebook Live.
Yeah, Facebook Live or whatever, I just think that would. And I just, do grant for early childhood.
So.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, everyone. I'll go now.
They didn't go through these yet.
Oh, the next steps,
I don't know. There's extra slides in our packet you guys didn't go over yet.
slides that are on the.
Oh, yes,
You hitting those next time?
yes.
Yes.
We have some people absent tonight, and the slides I talked about in the beginning were, we tested NWA for K-1. We didn't do it in the fall, but we did it in January. And we wanted this to focus on growth, so we'll talk about those slides the next time, when we have to compare January to June. So then you'll have 2 points of measure. The ones that are in your presentation right now show performance, how kindergarten and first grade did on NWA in January. We're gonna split up the presentation and do that the next time. So that,
So you guys got 2 weeks to prepare.
Where do you go?
well, till June, right?
Oh, June.
We're gonna do the end of the year. We're gonna compare those to the end of the year. Yes. Months. Months.
Okay. Okay, Chad, take it away.
All right, thank you guys for allowing me to present today. Just gonna go through a little bit of what's been going on this winter and what to look forward to into the spring. Here are our winter numbers. And these numbers indicate that our kids are participating. We are healthy, is how I would describe us, as compared to the other schools in this CTA, that are 2 counties, Chautauqua and Cattaraugus. Most of our league play. You'll notice our modified programs for boys and girls basketball. We're fielding 2 teams, and that is becoming a rarer thing, which is unfortunate. We're always having 2 teams. Our mod wrestling went up this year, and it will hopefully build the depth there. Our bowling groups both were good, and our indoor track is seeing a large amount of attendance and participation, along with our unified bowlers. That includes the athletes as well as helpers who participate as well, and cheerleading. It's also been relatively healthy. So our numbers are there, our kids are participating, which is a good thing. Just a few highlights, just to kind of both points. Girls basketball won their playoff game at Newfane. We went over to Southwestern, lost a tough one.
Boys basketball, the #1 seed right now in Class B, they'll be playing Thursday against Bennett. Up at Buff State, wrestling finished, all their wrestlers started, finished. And sometimes that doesn't seem like a big deal, but in a sport like wrestling and with grades, ELOC and injuries, that is a big deal. We had a counter spring placed in the sectionals, which was great. And our modified numbers remain the same. Bowling, our boys won the Class D small school sectional title up at Airport Lanes there. Indoor track is still going. Our numbers were up all year. Those are some tricky situations. There are a lot of schools that are merged together and they don't separate the groups. So you'll have Salamanca going up against very large teams, and we'll get to merged and what's going on in the state later in the presentation. But they held strong. We had some very good groups. Arlen North is heading to the state finals for the first time ever in our history. So he'll be going out to Staten Island and he'll get an opportunity to run in the 600. Which I believe is 2 times around the track in indoor, basically a sprint. And Unified Bowling competed today against Capitol Valley, and they will have a culminating event up at Airport Lanes as well next week on Tuesday. And that's a pretty cool event for them as well. So our club and youth has expanded, and thank you everyone here who's been allowing this to happen. This is a big portion of what's been going on in our district. And some of it comes back to the numbers you were just looking at. We want to capture some of our youth in athletics as we do in education. So our after school archery always starts with a big group, and the way that we've separated that is to provide all students who want to participate an opportunity before the New Year's. So they get about 4 or 5 weeks of basic safety, how to handle the bow, targets, and it's a shorter distance in our basement. Very, very big numbers. We then separate that group after the New Year's. It's picked up recently over the last couple of weeks, and they go over to Prospect because they need the longer distance to shoot, 15 meters plus. So they'll be competing, 47 are competing at the state event. Youth Wrestling Club has been using the NPR. They've been going since over November. I've become a wrestling dad, which is just crazy, but it's there and it's busy, but those numbers have been pretty good, pretty healthy. And we got to host a tournament, which I was told is the first time we've done that. Probably girls basketball youth hosting practices and hosted a nice tournament a couple weeks ago. Boys basketball hosting practices. USA Swim is back in the pool. They've been running on Tuesdays and Thursdays. They'll be going on to some events here soon. Youth dance, we host practices in the Ox Gym. So our facilities have been open.
Still, this late season chill was felt all over. This is like a dream come true for me. For many in New England, the overnight snowstorm was a welcome sight in what's been a mild winter. Welcome to snow. It simply meant relief from the season.
But I will say that the coordination with the buildings, using Prospect, using the intermediate, using the high school, raise security group, coordinating with insurance obligations and scheduling Rich's crew. Everyone has been great in providing opportunities for our community to utilize. Our weight room and fitness hours have been updated 3 to 5 with students and staff as the focus, trying to make sure we have plenty of opportunity for our kids to stay healthy, stay active. There's some downtime sometimes in between practices or the late bus, which Bob is here, we always have a bus available. And then the community is going to be more consistent. 5:30 to 7:30, we'll have properly trained staff in there to allow our community to get into a little bit of a groove leading up to spring break. And then we'll reassess the numbers and see where we're at. People may go. Ways. Saturdays will be 8 to 11. Pool. Community swim started and our numbers have been great. This has been a pretty popular activity over the winter. Upwards of 20 plus each Saturday, and coming soon will be an after-school program led by Mrs. Gifford, and that will get some of our Seneca intermediate students in there. Catch the late bus afterwards. And right now, our Seneca intermediate kids are swimming and PE. So they go in, they get a lesson, and then they get some free.
I might appear wet. Black ice, so no.
We have collaborated with 3rd grade. Stokes has helped us out. They'll be coming over to swim for a whole week in a few weeks, right? Is it May or it's May? It's not March yet. So 3rd grade will get a chance to come over, get in the pool for a class. We'll staff it up and I'll make sure they have a good. Come on.
Chad had this accident.
Absolutely.
That was coming out of, work, the leaders interviewing 4th graders as to things that really, kind of surprise them or kind of cause some stress and anxiety as they transition to Seneca. So those are some of the transition pieces we've been working on. So that's worked out really well.
Some events. We talked about this at the last presentation. We did host a student athlete informational presentation on January 19th. It wasn't well attended. We will do it again. We have a lacrosse presentation. Randy Burns over at St. Bonaventure is going to be doing not a recruit visit, but more of a global presentation about the pathway to college athletics. This is going to be used as a kickstart to the boys and girls lacrosse seasons on March 9th. We bumped into some conflicts, so we're going to bump it back to the 16th, and then we're going to host all of our lacrosse players to get a good presentation on what it takes to move on to the next level and just in the pathways. The Buffalo Bandits Phys Ed program will be here on April 24th and 25th, and this will be all kids grades 4 through 7. It'll be 2 full days of collaborating with the Bandits, and then they will be coming out to one of our team's practices to run some drills, go over some things, and just a neat opportunity for us. Parent athlete meeting is on March 21st. We've kind of changed how we did this. Got a whole bunch done in the fall with a big presentation with the coaches. Now we hold anyone who didn't go to these meetings in the fall or the winter, they come to this meeting and we just go over our expectations. This is going to be a week after the start of spring to capture some students who choose to play and maybe they didn't know they were going to play a week or 2 before. And then collaborating a little bit with the varsity club, Darren Fisk is going to do a sports presentation, sports nutrition presentation. You see a lot of energy drinks and improper eating, and just it's come up in the groups. What are some things that our student athletes can utilize? So he's gonna come and present hopefully someday within the first couple weeks of March. And he's already got it set. He's got to narrow it down with our coaches and what works best for our student athletes. We have that period at the end of the day. We get them into the auditorium, we give them some information, and then we continue to follow up with them. So just utilizing some local colleges and some programs to benefit our student athletes. Oh, good. Look ahead. All right, spring sports clubs numbers. These are a little bit modified from last year and guesstimated on what's going to be taking place, but we offer a ton in the spring. Our baseball in modified varsity for baseball is there. We don't have enough yet for a JV in baseball. Softball did last year. We ran 3 levels of girls softball last year. See, modified is going to have another big number this year, JV and varsity. Girls lacrosse, we're running modified varsity right now. Boys lacrosse modified and varsity with a possibility of JV. And then boys and girls track, we go modified varsity. tennis, golf, unified basketball, triathlon sports, strength and conditioning. Our strength and conditioning position, we're updating and trying to improve upon to connect the strength and conditioning room to our program. So we'll schedule workouts with teams, so it's an organized activity and less of an open space, less of a supervisory role and more of a focused in strength and conditioning. And that's something that should continue because a lot of kids probably prefer to be in there with their teammates and even in the off season. So if you're heavy in one season and into the summer or winter or whatever sport is your off season, you'd want to be in there more so. How we recognize our athletes, I threw this in here because there's questions that come up sometimes. And right now, all the graphics and things we utilize through social media, we use Box Out Sports, which is a great group that allows us to easily transfer pictures and information into professional looking graphics. Adam and Levi are used to point people for this product. They provide support for the department coaches in trying to communicate a message to the community. However, all of our coaches have access to this. So our Salamanca Warrior Athletics Facebook page seems to be our most popular place. All of our coaches have access to it. We go over this in our preseason meetings, and usually Levi is the one who will, he's the guru at how to do it. And once the coaches get the hang of it, they're pretty. So our sectional games, we have a pep assembly. And then our state qualifiers, we have a walk through the hall, which we're going to do Thursday at 10:05. So across the section in the state, these are things that have been coming up in our AD meetings, and we should be aware of as a district. The spectator sportsmanship rules coming to a vote in May. This would provide some framework for fan behavior. Referee numbers are down and coaching numbers are down, and a lot of that has to do with interactions with fans and parents and students for that. So this will add some official language to the expectations, and this is something that Dr. Beal and I have talked about a little bit, and it's coming, and it is in support of those groups, the coaches, the players, the referees. Girls flag football became an officially sanctioned sport in New York State this year. So that is something you're going to see in the spring. And it's something that it's right now being offered by larger districts. We're getting to a point where we're pulling in a lot of directions, but that's something you're going to see up north of us a little bit. Erie County's bigger schools are non-federated sports. So your soccer's, your volleyballs, baseball, basketballs are going to 6 classifications next year. Doesn't change a ton for us, but people ask why we go from C in football to B in this. Lacrosse and football are federated, meaning they don't follow the numbers of these non-federated sports. Okay, so that's because they're not offered the same way across the state. So our numbers are different. We're a C in something, and then we're a B in the rest. And then finally, merger discussions. And this has been a hot topic, and it's something I'm passionate about and knowledgeable about. Our current number breakdowns are creating inequities, in my opinion. The spirit of the rule has been blurred. Changing numbers to allow merging but prevent abuse. So my opinion, our district will continue, or this will continue to squeeze districts like ours until there is change. So the conversation is taking place across the state. And the spirit of the rule was to merge out of an emergency situation. You don't have enough to field the team. And that was how things were done for the most part. Now we're running into some super programs. Schools our size are merging with schools our size and creating this large program. Swimming's seeing it, Track seeing it, lacrosse, football seeing it in a large way. And it's just a discussion that we should be prepared for. I have my own opinion on it. Proud warrior, I want to keep everything in house. I want to keep recruiting our own hallways. These numbers are going to continue to squeeze us. Any questions on any of that before I move forward?
Two.
Yeah.
Well, going all the way back with the numbers. I think it was the very first slide of winter sports.
Mhm.
So that's modified through varsity. And what grades are those?
7 through 12.
7 through 12?
Yeah.
Okay. And then back to what you were just talking about. So you're talking about non-federated, federated, you're talking about the numbers, you're talking about school sizes. Say Salamanca and Olean merged. Doesn't that put us into a different class immediately because we're pulling from a pool of more athletes? Does that change?
So us with Olean would be a little different because
Hypothetically.
so hypothetically, no, we could merge with just about anyone around us and we would remain the same.
So, yeah, that, I don't get that because, I mean, you think about like a double A district, Lancaster. And then you have your A districts and your B districts. You know, how was that fair?
So they lowered the number significantly early on to make sure that we didn't lose programs. And you can use the local schools around us, Franklinville, Ellicottville, CSP, schools like that. They just get together, don't lose. And it was football that was the most prevalent. But now it's starting because the numbers are so low. We're experiencing weather situations. Our swim team had to swim against Jamestown and Southwestern merged again. Our football team this year is going to play Fulton, Casadega Valley, Maple Grove merged together this year. So there's a lot of conversations about what I did agree with before, because I was a part of a merger and I believed in it. It was done for the right reasons. And now it's starting to kind of morph into a nicety and not a necessity. You know, that's just convenience to pick up a local school district. So I just remember quoting from the section, this conversation is not going away. We could probably have.
What I wanted to know is how do we lobby to say, hey, come on, make it fair. You know, our school is, you shouldn't have to compete with 3 schools combined that can field teams and just don't want to pick and choose.
The last 3 athletic director meetings have gotten the most conversation on this topic. And it is happening across the state, and there's got to be a better formula. Once you commit to a merger, say we wanted to merge with the program for something. But once we become program 1, 2, 3, 4 years in, we're all in it. We're 100%. We should be taking 100%. That was one of the ideas. You know, so it's tricky, but it's a conversation that we should be aware of.
It seems like Maple Grove, they just want to team with whoever they want to team. Remember, works out best for them. It's just one person's opinion.
I don't know, I still just can't get past this because these mergers are pulling from a bigger pool of athletes. Whereas school district like ours, we still have the limited amount. You know, we're graduating anywhere from 80 to 100 kids a year. And then you mentioned Jamestown merged with somebody. How many kids is Jamestown graduating? And they're merging?
How is that possible?
Are they a double A district? Yeah, and they're merging. So now you're pulling from the top athletes of what? 700, 800 kids? It's, yeah, I don't see the fairness in it.
So it's something we should be proud of here. We're holding on to a lot of programs with solid numbers. So just keep recruiting the halls. Some of that goes back to what I'll talk about next. But moving forward, recruitment, training, retaining of quality coaches, student athlete, physical health, individual physical development. If you have a student who wants to take the next step, are we providing that opportunity? sports-specific skill development. We offer a lot of global stuff. Are we offering enough narrowed, focused development? Taking it to the championship level. Outside groups for clinics, training opportunities, and presentations with full support from you guys and from the admin on doing this. It's just a little trickier sometimes. It's one of those things that you use a little help on because you want to do it for everyone, but not all of these are made for everyone. Some of them are very specific. Camps, clinics, training for our youth. We run a lot of community ed. This might be something we talk about is how do we get some of our youth coaches into our system and allowing them to be in our buildings and be a part of our group without being full-fledged employees of the district. Recruiting our hallways is number one, making sure that all of the possible participants are playing. Okay, and as of now, we're holding on tight. We're doing a good job. And then use all of our resources to keep kids active. That's all of our spaces, pool, fitness center, weight room, turf, anything we can do to stay active. Just keep that. Okay. Any questions? We go on.
You're going to retire now.
Thank you for allowing me to talk a little bit.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on to the budget.
Exciting stuff.
Exciting.
Most exciting.
Yeah.
All right, so this is exactly what it says, a quick first look, because there's got a lot going on.
Did you say Karen's got a lot going on?
Yes, I did. All right, so we did this a little differently this year. And reason being is because I don't know where we're gonna end up with the budget yet, because Mark and I and Tiffany haven't had a chance to sit down, so this truly is the first look at this. So with 22-23, our current budget is $47.4 million. And looking at the revenues that we know are gonna come in, tax related revenue is up almost 140,000. That's due to the restarting of the exclusively funding coming in. Miscellaneous is up because our idle cash is just breaking in the dough. We're at like 4.8% interest, which is amazing. And the board that I sit on, we're at $10 billion in funding. So it's really cool that the district is, seeing part of that as well. Use of reserves is increased because Marcy wants a lot more technology, so we're using more money on the technology equipment fund. And that's exactly what it's for. Tuition, indigenous tuition and transportation is up about $370,000. And that's because, like I said last time, the more money we spend, the higher our tuition rates go. And then state aid. So we got a big increase in foundation aid. Right now, we're looking at an increase of $2.7 million. So all of those add up to $4.4 million of monies that we're going to see this year that we didn't see. I'm sorry, we'll see next year that we didn't see this year. So what happens after that is we use our fund balance and we use our impact aid. So I originally said, well, we'll continue to use $3 million of our unreserved fund balance. And then whatever else we need, we'll use impact aid. Well, we continue to get yelled at by the state because we have too much fund balance. So I'm gonna push that number first. And if we need impact aid, we'll use it. If we don't, we'll set it aside. And that way we'll still have our funding and the state. So those two numbers are to be determined because we don't know what our final budget number is gonna be yet. But we do know, what our tax levy is going to be. There it is. All right, so our tax levy will again be $250,000, remains flat since 1819. That's why. Yeah, so this is the tax levy calculation. This is what we could go to based on the state's calculation for the levy. We're looking at $250,000 is where we were. Tax base growth factor is 1 into the state, plus a current year pilot, 110. That is the last year that we'll have the pilot program. The pilot was for the Chinese restaurant downtown, and they paid off their loan, so our pilot will be gone. And they'll pay a regular tax bill from here on out. So that pushes, oh, and then we take off our prior year exemptions of a little over $1 million. So our adjusted prior year levy is minus $777,000. Multiply that by a 2% growth factor, minus 793, take out the pilot. So our tax levy limit will be minus $793,000, which would mean if we had a real tax levy like other school districts, we would have to decrease it by almost 800,000. But because we do have, we're buying buses, we're buying trucks, we're buying other equipment, we are paying on our debt service for principal and interest. We add back in $1,043,000. So our maximum allowable levy is $250,216. So we could raise our taxes by a whopping $416 if we wanted to. Oh, we're not. So that New York State 2% tax levy limit is really 0.17 for us. Other districts it's 2%, other districts it's higher, some it's lower, but they actually have to decrease their taxes. What do we have today? And actually this changed from the time that I did it. We have 1 administrator retiring. We have 5 teachers retiring, 4 teacher assistants, 2 bus drivers, and 1 monitor that are all retiring as of 30. We have 1 bus driver that retired in January, and today was the deadline for the majority of folks to announce they were retiring. So this is, I think, where we're going to end up. So again, this is first look. The budgets that were submitted to me were $53.4 million. I almost fell out of my chair. The 12.8% increase over last year, over existing year. And I'm like, okay. And I don't know. Reason being, you look at the different contracts that we have, collective bargaining agreements that we have with all the unions. STA is a 4% increase, staff average is up to 5%. CSU and SSO are $1 an hour for each employee. Confidential managerial averages out to 5%, and superintendent's average is up to 3%. So minimum wage will also increase. Based on, I know it's a nice figure, isn't it? When you know what I'm standing here saying, yeah, ours is only 3%. Oh, yeah, it's true. Minimum wage will be going up again on December 31st. I don't know what it's going to be. So it went up, on December 31st this year. So, health insurance took a huge increase of 10%. ERS is actually down, is up from 11.6% to 13.1%. That's for all of our non-instructional staff. And then TRS, which is teachers, is down to 9.76 from 10.29. So that goes down a little bit. ERS was up, and it's not really a wash, but at least it helps. So this is where the numbers came in. I took them apart and I'm like, okay, I got a couple minutes. I'm going to pull this together and we'll see where we are. What came in that was higher proposed compared to where we are right now? Salaries come in at 14.6% above where they are right now. That also includes approximately 12 new positions that have been requested. So it's not just salary increases, it's a bunch of new positions. Fringe went up an average of 5%. Equipment went up 16.7%. Contractual, which is anything and everything from, you know, the lights and utilities to insurance to travel to the contracts for SROs and armed security and other security stuff, the maintenance contracts on the boilers and all that good kind of stuff. So there's a ton of stuff in contractual. But that went up almost 50%. So I really got to dig into that and figure out what's going on. BOCES went up 13.4%. Materials and supplies a little over 10%. That service went down 26%. That's because one of our debts is paid off. We will more than likely probably put out another bond in June of this year for the addition. That's the approximately $6 million. And that's already taken into account in that service. Interfunds increases by $50,000. So we're really looking at, you know, what is that $6 million? You know, where is that $6 million increase, and what can we decrease, you know, out of there to figure out? Yeah, it should not be coming back to the public with it. So we'll figure out where we can trim it and let you know where that is. Okay. I think that's okay. Questions? So this quick.
All right.
All right.
All right. And item F.
Let's see, this is just a quick reminder that we have a special, the district's holding a special meeting and a vote on March 21st. The vote will occur in the high school gymnasium from noon to 9 p.m. It is specific to the proposition to acquire 7 particular parcels of real property.
Okay, thank you. Jenna, do we have anybody for public communications? We do not. Anybody for Title VI? No. Title VI.
No, we don't have nothing to discuss other
Okay.
than what's
Well, Mr. Gill, our current director has found a position closer to home, and we have posted for the new Title VI director. So we look forward to working with this individual when they come on board.
Okay. We'll move on to central office message then. Karen, do you have anything else you want to share?
Oh, yeah, I got a notice that, Davis has been, provided, in fact, it has been provided with all the funding for 23. So I think last time I was here is when we got around 8.6 million, I think it was. For the first half of 23, we will be getting an additional, 40% of 50%. To push us to a total of 90%. It makes sense. So we'll be getting an additional probably 7 million-ish in March, and then next fall we'll finish out with putting money back for. And then the application is all in, and we're just waiting here on that. And Bart, Tiffany and I have been working diligently on getting our educational stimulus funding requirements done. That's due Thursday, and the deadline is other than.
Okay. Giannici, how about you?
I have a few updates. This week, Dunkirk and Sweet Home are coming to visit our STEM and WASA curriculum. We're excited to have them because we're going to do a mixture this time. We're going to head to the elementary for part of the day and the intermediate and the high schools. We put together a schedule for them. They'll enjoy their time here. Cub Scout starts this Thursday, and I thank Dr. Baylor for that because he helped make this happen. That's his wheelhouse, and he helped, with the planning and the organizing and giving us the contact. So we currently have 50 kids registered for that starting Thursday, and that'll run every Thursday until April. So it's a great opportunity for our students. We'll have another family engagement night this week. Dr. Seuss Family Night will be taking place at Prospect on Thursday, March 2nd. Looking forward to that. The kids will celebrate all day, but then they will continue on with the Dr. Seuss celebration into the evening with their families. And one last thing is we've interviewed for a family support worker and a high school attendance officer. And we're excited and hoping that both of these employees will be coming on board soon. So, thank you.
All right, we'll move on to the board message. Flip, might as well start with you.
Something different.
Yeah, right.
I just wanted to thank everyone for the progress that was made in the testing. I know it's a challenge and a path, and there's significant progress and the commitment to that intensity it seems to how you have, it's commendable. Thank you.
Ted?
I'll same thing. I just want to thank all the presenters for presentations tonight and hope everybody's enjoying the cold weather.
Brad?
I just want to congratulate everyone on the progress and wish all the athletes best of luck.
Dale?
I'm good tonight, thanks.
Gary?
Wow. Carrie can have my minutes.
Gary? Oh, boy.
Well, now I gotta think of something to say.
Oh, boy.
As always, I thank every one of our staff members, for doing sometimes a thankless job, but doing what you can. As we talked about, our first bold goal is to make our kids smarter. That's across the board, every single staff member. Thank you. And my colleagues, thank you all as well for showing the support and dedication to our kids. It can't go unsaid, or it can't be said enough. We need to thank everybody who's doing what they are doing, to help this community, help our kids. It was somewhat of an eye-opener seeing the presentation on the scores. I think we've known for years that we've been behind national averages. We've been talking about it for years. And it's always that one thing that's the tough one, and that's why we've been saying for years, what do we do to make our kids smarter? We've talked about it for years too. It was the easy part to keep them interested, create more programs, give them more opportunities, and you provide that hope to keep kids in school. And hopefully, if they're staying in school, they're going to be interested in something else or keeping up with their grades, especially if they're in sports. They have to if they want to play. So I think we've done a pretty good job of, picking the low-hanging fruit. Now we got to get to that top of the tree and get the really good stuff. And that's what I think we're really pushing for and working towards. And, a lot of you guys aren't privy to it, but, whatever we have our meetings, and it's just, the six of us and a couple other folks in the meeting. That's a lot of the hard questions we're always asking, what are we going to do better? What are we going to do more? I think, even looking at the budget, I think that's a part of the testament of what we're trying to do. Karen mentioned it. How many new staff positions?
I think it's 12.
Okay, and how many of those are educational? Sorry, Mark, how many of those are educational?
Well, we know we just added 9 teacher assistants to work on exactly what we're concerned about.
Yep.
Yeah, that's in addition to everything that's been added this year.
Yeah, right.
Well, see, but that's part of the commitment, and that's one of the other things we always talk about too, as well. Hiring more staff, but where are we going to put them all?
Right.
Well, that's some of the other hard questions that we got to figure out. We're working on it though. We're trying to make it better. That's pretty much all I wanted to say tonight, other than, hope for snow. There's still a good month of skiing left.
No.
Let's hope for a couple more blizzards to roll through. And everyone who loves the winter time. So.
It's 76 out there.
With snow on the way. Yeah. But again, thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary. Yes, thank you to everybody that presented tonight. It's always nice to hear from everyone. I know sometimes public speaking isn't everyone's favorite thing to do, but it's nice to hear from the different departments and to know what's going on, because sometimes you lose track of all the little things that are going on to make us better. So it is nice to hear. And it's nice to hear that our numbers are up in athletics and tomorrow does begin my birthday month, just in case anybody was wondering. But my question is, what is the color for the game on Thursday? Do we know? Is it red? Is it red?
Right.
Okay,
I told you that, Levi said.
we weren't sure. Was supposed to be sure. So good luck to the basketball team, all the sports teams, to Arlen when he's competing. That's exciting that we have somebody going to Staten Island. So I know how fast he is when I saw him running around on the football field. So hopefully he does good. And again, thank you for everybody and keep up the good work. And we are making progress. Even though it might not be the progress we want, we at least know how, or at least we're trying to put things in place to get our numbers up. So we'll see. We'll be looking forward to the presentation in June, right? Yes. All right, I'll turn it over to the superintendent.
Just a couple of quick notes. I wanted to express my gratitude to Gabrielle Papa, Mrs. Cook, and Cleo Farms. Mrs. Genichi and I had the opportunity to go out there today, and it sort of meshed with several of the things that came up. The Native American curriculum team has been looking forward to creating a larger garden. I don't want to know if I can go to the extent to say a farm, but somewhere between a farm and a garden. And we heard some of the plans to take a look at the properties on Hoy Street. But having the opportunity to go out there today, meet with Jerry Fisher to get an idea of what they have happening and how we can begin to model some of that and be able to work with our students here on traditional farming strategies. And then also be able to teach some of the lessons that go along with that, that are applicable not only to agriculture and farming, but also to life. So we're really looking forward to moving forward in this direction, and it was pretty exciting, I thought. Another note, after several months and at the direction of the school board and their focus on ensuring that we're doing everything possible to create a safe and secure environment for our students and staff. Today, we had our first security officers that are being contracted through First Response Protection and Security. So we know that over the past several years, we have increased the number of school resource officers that we have to 3, 1 per building. We've made physical improvements to our buildings. And starting today, we have added additional security officers that will spend the vast majority of their time, about 90%, 95% of their time outside school. So these are armed officers who are contracted through First Response Protection and Security. The officers are licensed New York State security professionals. They were specifically selected and trained because of their ability to work in and around our schools. They are uniformed. People are welcome to come up and say hello to them. They're friendly security officers, just like the security officers that we have. But it's just the next level of enhancement that we're making to ensure that we can provide a safe environment for students and staff. The last thing that I just wanted to mention, you'll see in the agenda tonight that there's a request for several of our students and staff to attend NAFIS in Washington, D.C. NAFIS called us specifically and asked us to bring some students to open the conference this year. So we have 2 students who will be presenting on the STEAM program, which is what they had asked for specifically. And then we have 2 Native students who are sitting on a panel the next day to speak specifically to how schools can engage or re-engage our Native American youth in a post-pandemic school environment. So we're excited about that and looking forward to attending not only NAFIS, but then also going to visit our elected representatives to continue to lobby for impact aid. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, we will move on to our consent agenda. So I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion.
Motion by Carrie, second by Dale. Are there any questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you give us a little rundown, because this email or the submission for Staten Island is kind of confusing.
Yes.
So is it Lori going or is it Michelle going, or are they both going?
They are both going.
And then Anna Gifford as well?
Correct. Right. Yes.
Okay. And then I see they're going by bus. And then I also see in Chad's email that we're not responsible for anything other than transportation. Is this an overnight trip? Is this a 1 day back and forth?
It is an overnight. The cost of the rooms is being picked up by the sports boosters.
Okay,
So we will cover the cost of food and transportation.
okay. Just a comment. I think it's awesome that the coaches and the students are gonna go on and support it. You know, it's always obvious when one of our bigger teams goes to playoffs or sectionals or whatever it is, and we provide spectator buses and the whole nine. We got one student going out to states, and I just think it's great that we're at least sending somebody out there, so he's not alone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Then we have a motion by Carrie, second by Dale. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carried. Item F is a travel conference for Raymond Haley for April 18th through the 21st. So we need a motion to approve that travel.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by, who made that, Tad?
Yeah.
Second by Brad. Are there any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I will abstain. Motion carried. Item 6 is old business for petitions for the Board of Education member revised. And this was because the lead vote getter will assume the position, is it that night or the next day?
So it'll be the next day.
Next day?
So with the resignation of trustee Freeze, we have the position now where the highest vote counter, or vote getter from the election will actually fill the remainder of the position beginning the next day. That wasn't annotated to the specificity it is here, so we wanted to just revise the amendment so that that's crystal clear.
So we'll have 7.
Can I just mention one
Sure.
thing?
Please.
It's that time frame plus the 5 year, but it's not connected to any specific board member. The seats are not specific to a board member, it's just that time frame.
Good term. Okay. All right, then we need a motion to approve the revised resolution.
Motion.
Do you want to second it?
Yep.
Okay, motion by Flip. Second by Carrie. Are there any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carried. Item A, under our new business is our name change of Seneca Youth Council to Allegheny Indigenous Youth Coalition. So we need a motion to approve that name change effective on December 20th, 2022.
Motion.
Sorry. Motion by Dale, second by Brad. Are there any questions? Comments?
Well, Mark, can you just give us a quick?
Yes, the Seneca Youth Council has decided that they would like to become just a little bit more inclusive and adjust their name from what has historically been referred to as the Seneca Youth Council to the Allegheny Indigenous Youth Coalition. So this was a student-generated request.
So we have a motion by Dale, second by Brad, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion carried. Item B is our special education extended school year for 2023. So we need a motion to approve the extended school year.
Motion.
Motion by Carrie, second by Tad. Are there any questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion carried. Item C is our BOCES cooperative purchasing agreement. So we need a motion to approve BOCES cooperative purchasing. Motion by Brad, second by Flip. Are there any questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion carried. Item D is our Cattaraugus County Board of Elections polling place agreement for elections on Tuesday, June 27th at Prospect. and the general election Tuesday, November 7th at Prospect. So we need a motion to approve the polling agreement.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Tad, second by Carrie. Are there any questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion carried. Item E is the Salamanca Support Staff Organization MOA. So we need a motion to approve that MOA.
Motion.
Motion by Dale,
Second.
second by Brad. Are there any questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained, motion carried. Item F is the creation of a Seneca language curriculum writer for $20,000 stipend. We need a motion to approve that position. Motion by Flip.
Second.
Second by Dale. Are there any questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carried. Item 8 is our personnel consent agenda. Item 8B, we need a motion to approve the personnel consent agenda.
Motion.
Motion by Tad,
Second.
second by Brad. Are there any questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carried. Do we have anybody we'd
I
like to
do not
introduce,
see
recognize?
anyone online or here. We will welcome them when we see them.
Okay,
The, well, the retirements.
We're gonna do a big deal for the retirements at a future meeting.
Okay.
All right, Larry.
what's next?
Absolutely.
That's what I thought.
Cake and cupcakes.
No.
Yeah,
Oh,
vegetables
celery.
and boathouse blue cheese. Is that what it is?
That what the full house blue cheese.
Oh, there you go.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Cheesecake.
No. No. Item 9 is our board information and reports. So we have our Indigenous Education Committee meeting minutes from February 8th. We have a thank you card. Let's see.
So this is, let's,
From
from Mona Lungerhausen. She wants to express her gratitude. So dear Salamanca Board of Education and Administration, thank you for granting me the opportunity to attend the Texas Music Educators Conference this past week. I saw and heard so many talented, engaging, and inspiring speakers and performers. I'm still in awe. I can't wait to bring the energy I felt back to Salamanca students and adults alike. Please accept my sincerest gratitude for your support of this trip.
Awesome. I love hearing that. Upcoming events, we have March 3rd and 4th, All County Music Festival, and we are hosting that. That's exciting. March 6th is our personnel instruction committee meeting, 8 a.m. at the superintendent's office. March 8th is Indigenous Education committee meeting, 4:30 right here. March 9th is all chorus concert at the high school odd. March 14th is our next Board of Education meeting and my birthday eve. My birthday's not on here, but it probably should be,
That's
but
correct.
it's not. And then March 21st is the special district vote. So please, everybody come out and vote. And with that, I'd like to thank everybody for coming tonight, and we need a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of proposed acquisition of real property.
Motion.
Motion by Carrie, second by Dale. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion carried. Again, thank you everyone for coming.